In the year 170, the most powerful man on earth, the ruler of the Roman Empire, sits alone in a military tent at midnight, writing to himself by lamplight, not for readers, not for history, just for himself. Around him, chaos. An unplanned war grinding on for years. A plague ripping through his empire, killing by the millions. Betrayal from men he once trusted with his own life. Any ordinary person would have broken under the weight of it. But the words he wrote that night have survived for nearly 2,000 years. Copied, translated, read by generals and presidents alike. And they say one thing over and over in a dozen different ways. The obstacle isn't standing in your way. The obstacle is the way. This is Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, Stoic philosopher, a man who ruled the most powerful nation on earth, yet wrote like someone quietly trying to hold himself together. Today, we're breaking down his 4 most powerful lessons from that private notebook. Lessons that will change how you handle the worst days of your own life. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire from 161 to 180 AD, nearly 2 decades at the absolute center of power. But his reign was almost never peaceful. The Parthian War dragged on for years on the eastern frontier. The Antonine Plague, likely smallpox, tore through the empire and killed an estimated 5 million people. Germanic tribes pressed relentlessly on the northern border, and at one point, even one of his own most trusted generals rose up in open rebellion against him. All of it landed on one man's shoulders, year after year, with no one above him to share the weight. And in the middle of that pressure, often while literally on campaign in a military camp, he wrote what we now call Meditations, his private journal. He never intended to publish it. It wasn't written for an audience, and it wasn't polished philosophy meant to impress anyone. It was raw, unfiltered reflection, notes an exhausted man wrote to himself just to get through the day. And that honesty, that complete lack of performance, is exactly what makes it powerful nearly 2,000 years later. The most famous line in Meditations reads, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." It's a strange sentence the first time you read it, almost a riddle, but it holds the entire foundation of Marcus's philosophy in one breath. What does that actually mean in practice? For Marcus, an obstacle is never something that simply ruins your plan and ends the story there. It's raw material, unshaped, inconvenient, but usable, for a different plan, one you haven't thought of yet. Here's a concrete example. You're deep into something important, a project, a deal, a relationship, and suddenly a partner backs out without warning. The ordinary human reaction is anger, panic, the reflexive thought, "Why is this happening to me right now, of all times?" The Stoic reaction runs in a completely different direction. This situation, uncomfortable as it is actively training you in adaptability, in self-reliance, in thinking on your feet. The obstacle didn't destroy the plan. In a very real sense, it strengthened the person holding it. This isn't naive optimism, and it isn't the vague comfort of everything happens for a reason. Marcus never claimed the universe was arranging things for your benefit. It's a much more practical stance. Inside almost every difficulty, there is something usable, something actionable, some option you haven't spotted yet. Your job isn't to feel good about the obstacle, it's simply to find that option. Practical application. Next time your plan breaks, and it will, ask yourself one direct question: what's actionable in this situation right now? That question won't erase the frustration or the disappointment immediately. Emotions don't work that fast. But it does something more useful. It shifts you almost instantly from victim of the situation to agent within it. Marcus writes another deep insight, one that sounds almost clinical for a man ruling an empire. External things are not the problem, it's your assessment of them, which you can erase right now. In other words, it's rarely the event itself that actually hurts you. Far more often, it's your judgment about the event layered on top of it that does the damage. Here's a simple example. You receive harsh criticism from someone whose opinion matters to you. The event itself doesn't change, no matter how you react to it. The words were said, that's a fact now, fixed in the past. But from that single fixed fact, you have at least 2 paths open. You can interpret it as, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. Or you can interpret it as, this is uncomfortable, but it's information I can actually use. Same event, two completely different emotional outcomes, and the difference depends entirely on the judgment you choose to attach to it. This idea that your suffering comes from interpretation, not from events themselves, sits at the foundation of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most evidence-backed forms of psychotherapy we have today. Marcus was mapping out the mechanism nearly 2,000 years before psychologists ever gave it a clinical name. Practical application. Next time something genuinely upsets you, pause and ask yourself one honest question. Am I upset about the event itself or about my opinion of the event? Sit with that for a moment before answering. More often than you'd expect, it's the second one. Another core Stoic concept, one that shows up again and again in meditations, is Amor, Fati, literally love of fate. It's easy to misread that phrase as passive resignation. Marcus meant something much more demanding, active acceptance. The distinction matters more than it might seem at first. Resignation says, nothing I do will change this, so why bother? And it stops right there. No action follows, just a kind of quiet defeat. Amor Fati says something almost the opposite. This has happened, it's real, now what do I actually do about it? And it moves straight into action without wasting energy arguing with reality. While Marcus was running an empire under siege on every front, while the plague was spreading through his own household, he never once wrote, "This is unfair," or "I don't deserve this." Instead, he accepted the situation exactly as it was. No more, no less. And then asked the only useful question left: what needs to be done next? That same distinction applies directly to your career, your relationships, any genuinely hard situation you're facing right now. Lost a job you thought was secure? Resignation says, I'm a failure. This proves I'm not good enough. Amor Fati says, this happened, it's real, it hurts. Now what? Practical application. The next time you hit a situation you genuinely cannot change, notice the question your mind reaches for first. If it's, why me? Gently redirect it. Ask, now what, instead, every single time. Why did Marcus write meditations in the first place? Night after night for years. Because he made a habit of checking in with himself every single day, without exception. In many ways, it's the ancient ancestor of modern journaling. The same practice, just written by candlelight instead of typed into an app. His method was disarmingly simple, no elaborate ritual required. At the close of each day, however exhausted he was, he sat with himself and asked 3 direct questions. What did I do well today? Where did I go wrong? And how can I do better tomorrow? 3 questions asked in the same order, night after night, for years. This wasn't self-punishment, and it wasn't spiraling guilt. It was neutral, almost clinical observation, the way a coach reviews game footage. The most powerful man in the world did this daily, without skipping, because he understood something most people miss. Discipline isn't one dramatic decision made once. It's a practice, repeated quietly, long after the motivation that started it has faded. Practical application. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself those same 3 questions. 5 honest minutes is genuinely enough. You don't need an hour, and you don't need a beautiful journal. Discipline isn't built through big, dramatic changes. It's built through small, unglamorous habits, repeated on the nights you don't feel like it too. Let's bring everything back together, because these 4 lessons build on each other far more than they first appear to. First, the obstacle is the way itself, not a wall blocking your progress. Genuinely, the raw material your progress is made from. Second, you respond to your judgment of the event, never the event itself. Change the judgment, and the entire experience shifts underneath you. Third, Amor Fati. Accept your fate exactly as it is, completely, and only then decide what to do about it. And fourth, daily reflection is what actually builds discipline over time. Not willpower in a single dramatic moment, but a quiet habit, repeated night after night. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire, fought wars that never seemed to end, and survived a plague that killed millions around him, and somehow kept his inner stillness through all of it, because he controlled his response, never his circumstances. Your empire today might be your job, your relationships, your goals. The ordinary chaos of a Tuesday, the lesson stays exactly the same. The obstacle finds its teacher, not its enemy. If this video was useful, subscribe. It genuinely helps. And next time we break down Epictetus's dichotomy of control, arguably the single most practical rule in all of Stoicism.